decided we're going to have to get active. We're going to have to show the oil and gas people, we're going to show the utility people, we're going to have to show folks that, you know, like, hey, we're somebody. And at the same time, we had this good-looking man on the right over there, and as far as I know, this is the first time in history that a Railroad Commission chairman shook hands with a renewable energy activist. That's Mac Wallace, by the way, and he was really one of the first really big supporters of renewables, and he was chairman of the Railroad Commission, and he was instrumental in moving Texas forward, and very few people know that story. And this particular one is for Russell with lasting and genuine whatever it is, and good work, Russell. So, and then we have this picture, whereas I'm pretty sure this may not be only the first, but maybe the last time a Republican governor has shaken hands with a renewable energy activist. And Russell, you sure worked thin, man. Damn. So we've had 16 plus 1, Warren Cole. We've had 17 presidents of TREIA. In the first 15 years, there weren't a lot of us. We had Curtis Higgs, who I don't have a picture of him, and I don't have a picture of Warren Cole. Then I was the 3rd president, Bob Walters was the 4th, Polar was the 5th. I think I was the maybe 6th. There was a run there where I was president for four or five terms. And then we had our first utility exec from LCRA. And then we had John Hoffner, which also was a utility person at the time. So in the first 15 years, and of course Charles Freeman, if I forgot to say Charles Freeman, he was one of the great presidents that we ever had. And last 15 years, and I was pleased to see so many of them are his. Rick here, I know Rick was here. Here's Rick over here. Go on and stand up, Rick, why not? Mike Sloan was president. There he is there. Tom Freeman, of course, Robigo's here. He was president, wherever he is. Robigo, you still here? And of course, we got Howard, our most recent president. We got Steve. We got John Hoffner. We've got... I haven't seen Bob. Bob's not here, is he? Bob Webb. Freeman again, BJ, of course, Stanberry. So a total of 17 presidents. And so many other people made this thing work. There was Von Nelson with the wind. There was a fellow who was with solar, with Bob Walters' company, and he was so instrumental in this starting this group and keeping it alive. But the important thing is that it's not just the old people. And by the way, the only reason I put this picture in is because that is the only time that I ever won the solar car race. That was TREIA #1, and I was very proud of that. But we've had a lot of new people join us, like Clay Butler and the other environmentalists who've come and joined us. Tom Smith has been with us for years and been on the board. There have been so many people who have worked to make what has happened happen. So what did we do? Well, we intervened in proceedings. That was really the first thing we did, and there's a very young Carl Robigo, because there were 2 famous proceedings. We talked about them last night at dinner. We had a wonderful dinner. And one of them was 10,400, which is the one in which EDF, TREIA, and I think Public Citizen, and maybe 2 other groups, we all intervened, and we opposed Texas Utilities. It was back in the old days when we used to plan things. It was the notice of intent, and if you could knock them off with the notice of intent, then they didn't even get to the CCM stage where they could actually build a power plant. And I would pick up Robigo. He was a young lawyer from Houston. He'd fly in, and we'd go to PUC, and we did our first NOI. Actually, this was the second one. And lo and behold, we won. We stopped 3 combined cycle plants and a coal plant or whatever it was a lot. And all of a sudden, the Texas Renewable Energy Industry Association showed up on some people's radar. They went, well, who are these people? Because they organized a force that stopped us. You know, we were planning on doing this, and now we got to come up with some new plans. And the reason we won is because we had gotten statutes written which had said that they had to consider the environmental effects. They had to look at all the stuff in order to build these plants, and they didn't do it. They just weren't paying attention to the law. My favorite one was the SPS case, 6055. And I'm from the Texas Panhandle, and SPS was going to build a 600 megawatt coal plant, and you know, Texas Panhandle doesn't grow, really. It's like, I just couldn't figure out why they wanted to build a 600 megawatt coal plant below it. So we opposed that, and we got to digging in on it, and I remember I was cross-examining the lady from SPS and marketing, and I said, so where's this load coming from? Well, it's coming from industrial. We're growing in industrial. See, here's our industrial graph, and we're growing like crazy. I went, there's nothing going on in the Texas Panhandle like that. So anyway, I got on a plane and flew up there and started visiting with some of my scallywag oil and gas buddies. Asking them what's going on up here, and he said, well, you know, we got this white oil thing, and it's just so exciting, this white oil thing. And I went, well, what is this white oil you're talking about? He said, well, you know what we're really doing now, you can't tell them about it. Here, you can't tell them about it. But what we're doing is that we're going down and we're really getting the gas. What we're doing is that we're getting gas out of some of these deep wells that are owned by the majors. We're top leasing and we're getting that gas. And then we got this letter from the Railroad Commission that says that white oil is oil. And I said, well, what is white oil? He said, well, what we do is we take that gas, you see, and then we refrigerate it. And we make it cold, and then it turns into a liquid, and then we go down to the Railroad Commission, and we call this thing an oil well instead of, you know, a top gas well. So I said, are you telling me that there are refrigerators all over the Texas Panhandle right now refrigerating natural gas and turning it into white oil? And he says, yeah, and it's really just taken off, you know, it's just really taken off. So I went, okay, I think I understand what's going on. Anyway, so we went back and we reconvened at the PUC, and I got the same lady up, and I said, so where is all this load that you're talking about in the commercial sector? And she says, well, it's, well, oddly enough, it's in refrigeration. And it wasn't 2 months later that the Railroad Commission put an end to that party, and because the majors could see that they were getting their gas stolen from them. But once again, it put TREIA way, way on the map. We worked the legislature, you know, I remember I had this one legislator who I got him to carry the externality bill, and then the guy from TU came in and visited him that night, and the next morning he called me and said, well, I can't file it. And I said, why? And he said, because I can't. You know, because the TU lobbyist came in and visited me last night. We were working bills, we were working RPS bills, you know, way before we even knew what RPS meant. And there's so many stories there, but the really long balls that I see that have been accomplished in the 30 years, you know, was STEP, SEDC, the RPS, CRES, and that's resulted in about $15 billion worth of, Jeff, I may be off on my numbers here, but $15 billion worth of turbines, maybe 13,000 jobs is a number I came up with. I don't know if that's close to what you use or not, Jeff. It is 13 gigawatts of turbines of 320 gigawatts in the world. And, you know, in the next little bit, Clay Butler and I were kind of totaling up the solar and looking at what's going on at San Antonio and Austin, and we're going to be somewhere close to a gigawatt worth of solar here, but of 140 gigawatts in the world. And you know, I saw an estimate by various groups that it's about 4,000 jobs. What was so amazing, let me go back, what was so amazing was that we built the largest machine on earth so that it could be a renewable energy machine, and we could move our resources in the West back to the load zones in the East. And that all started when Governor Richards created the STEP process, and she gave renewables a place at the table. And I was chairman of the Renewable Energy Committee, and Roger Duncan was chairman of the Efficiency Committee, and Vaughn Nelson was, Vaughn, were you chairman of the Future Committee in that?
Co-chair Outlook.
What was it?
Co-chair of Outlook.
Co-chair of the Outlook Committee, sort of the Future Committee. But there were some great moments there. I want to check on my time here. I want to wrap this up here. There were some great moments, and we went from STEP, we got the recommendation out of STEP to create the SEDC. We got $2 million worth of oil overcharge funds. Robigo and Gary Morrow were the co-chairs of that. Out of that, we got all of our studies. We came up with the need for transmission. We actually did the rudimentary work on transmission, you know, out of the third floor of the Austin Club. RPS, I was on getting on a plane with Tom Smitty-Smith when Chairman Lowens called us. We were getting ready to go to a meeting. We were starting a Southern Climate Change States Initiative. And it was Rollins on the phone saying, you know, we're gonna put the RPS in the bill. We need some language. I need some language now. And then of course the CREZ. The CREZ was an incredible accomplishment. TREIA and the wind group, of course, you know, really carried the water on that. But if you look at the leadership in Texas, and this is what I told them in Canada, I said, you know, we got a big boost when Governor Richards, you know, put us on the map. We got a big boost when George Bush came in and kept the SEDC going and said that, as if you read the book, you know, on wind, that we like wind. And then through our second Republican governor, we had the existing governor, Governor Perry, you know, making the CREZ lines happen. And that's a remarkable accomplishment. And as Harry Truman said, you know, you can get a lot done. You can get a lot done if you don't mind who gets the credit. And TREIA never took the credit for it, but it's important. But one important thing, people go, well, what really happened? And I said, you know, the big thing that happened was back during the Richards administration. And it was clear at that time that the great energy state of Texas, the great oil and gas state of Texas, was getting ready to become an energy importer at about 12 quads. And nobody really wanted to think about it, but in fact, that was the issue that gave us the strength on both sides of the aisle. Well, it's not morning anymore. The sun has risen. And solar is the new wind. Last year, for the first time, 36.7 gigawatts of wind of solar was installed versus 35.5 gigawatts of wind. Much of that's utility scale. Look at the ERCOT interconnection queue right now. You see 25,000 of wind, 4,000 of solar. That's absolutely remarkable. And the price of generation, these are the numbers. They're the low case numbers that was given to us by Austin Energy at the generation task force that we held. What's the cheapest energy source? West wind at 26, next is south wind at 36, next is west PV at 45, then demand at 56, then gas combined cycle at $62, and then case, then local PV at 90, and then gas combustion turbine. So, despite what you heard this morning, renewables do kick ass. It's happening. 10% of Texas electrical energy is renewables. 35% of Austin energy will be renewables by the end of 2016. Council's adopted a plan to go to 65% by 2025. The utility is counted at 50% by 2025. That's a remarkable counter. So somewhere between 600 and 900 megawatts of solar. We've got RFPs by LCRA, Georgetown. 4 gigawatts of wind is under construction and 4 gigawatts of PV is in the queue. What I talk about is not only the unified energy system, but the renewable symphony, where we do a blend of our solar resources, of our western resources, and our coastal and southern resources, and we build a symphony that can meet the demands of Texans and meet the capacity that we need to meet. You know, most people who want to marginalize renewables say, well, the wind doesn't blow all the time, and the sun doesn't shine all the time, And I go, well, actually it does shine all the time. You can't see it all the time, but it actually does shine all the time, They go, well, it's not 24/7. And I go, well, in fact, we don't want 24/7. If you're a utility manager and you're honest, what we need is about 10/5. We need about 10 hours every weekday, because the weekends are nothing. We need energy when we need energy, not 24/7. That's a 7-Eleven. The energy supply is different. And we need energy unification. We need to take all of that stranded capacity that's in the Texas football stadium, those 40,000 cars, and make them all plug-in hybrid cars so that ultimately someday they can become part of a unified energy system of where energy goes from the power plant to the load, to the transportation system, from the transportation system back to the load, back to the power plant. We need a unified system, and with that unified system, someday people are going to be buying energy from me on time of day at 2 cents in the middle of the night, and I'm going to be buying it back from them for 10 cents. And that's the way we build a renewable energy economy that goes beyond 35, 40, 45%. Because when we get in those higher penetrations, we're going to need to be very, very smart about the kind of energy we're using, and we're going to have to be very, very smart about the way that we make the whole system work. And that sophistication will come, from folks like we have at Pecan Street, where we're learning about the way people charge their cars. We're learning everything we need to know, because we have a little microcosm there. We got 600 homes. We got 200 with solar power panels on top, and 100 of them have cars, electric cars that charge. So we can actually see the utility of the future there. We're moving into the morning, but I want everybody in this room to know that we're also headed for high noon. By the way, that's not high noon, that's the OK Corral. But high noon, we're going to be in a situation, and we're seeing it right now, to where our competitors are going to go, hey, these guys that we marginalized 25 years ago are getting substantial market shares. The market share of wind in Texas is equal to the market share of nuclear. It's real money. And it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and that is reduce prices, and that's causing problems. We're going to have to stick together, work together, and we're even going to have conflicts between the wind people and the big solar people and the distributed solar people and all the other groups. And we're going to have to work together to come up with a gestalt effort to make the next 30 years just as profitable and just as good for the improvement of our environment and the decarbonization of our power system as we've accomplished in really the last 20 years. Tomorrow will change us. I don't really get angry at people who don't believe in climate change, because I don't really care. Climate change doesn't care if someone believes in it or not. It's coming. It's happening. So it's going to change our cities. It's going to change our homes. It's going to change the way we make our food. It's going to change the way we travel. It's going to change everything, y'all. And it will change the way we use energy and the way we produce energy. And here in Texas, we can really be proud of what we've accomplished. We built the largest renewable energy machine on earth, and it will be something that all of the nations of the earth, when the State Department sent me to France last September, they wanted to know about the CREZ. They wanted to know about the Texas system. They wanted to know about how we are treating renewable resources just like a farm would be treated, and your farm produce would be treated. You can't expect farmers to grow your produce out in the boonies if you don't build them some farm-to-market roads. And so we did that. We built the CREZ, and it will handle not only wind, of course, but solar. Think of it. We have gone from a market share of 0 to, in Austin, Texas, we're talking about 50% renewables in the next 5 to 10 years. Even the utility thinks we can do it in the next 10 years. That's a remarkable feat. And I would hate to think that this would be the last meeting of TREIA or some group like that. I want you to know I'm 100% in favor of creating this alliance and working with Charlie, and working with Jeff, and working with all the folks that need to be worked with, and that we can transform this organization into an even stronger organization that can meet the needs of the future. And I'm glad to be a part of it, and I thank you all for being part of this great effort, because what we've done here is important, it's meaningful, and people will be talking about what Texas did for a long time. Thank you very much. Looks like we're good. Thank you, everybody.